Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, genders of all ages, welcome to episode 14 of Alive on One, the Transformers.cards podcast. I am your host, the God King Lord Zero, and with me today is one of our designers, kind of our team manager, as well as my good friend Jihen.
Hey, Lizzie.
Today we're talking about recent updates to Sixshot, adjustments to Malevolent Architect, we released a new Outlier card, and we're going to talk about why designers play in tournaments. As always, though, first we have Card of the Month, and this month is Kinetic Converter from Wave 4. We're mainly bringing this up because Sixshot.
Yeah, definitely. We saw when Sixshot was rolled out in our test tournament, definitely seeing Kinetic Converter coming back, people playing at trying to get Sixshot to flip a lot and just get horrendous card draw out of it, where you're able to get tons and tons of cards in hand, which was one of the lessons we had from the Sixshot tournament. And we'll talk about changes in a moment, but it was just great to see Kinetic Converter in use again. I was taking a look at the current decks people have been making on Transformers.cards, and it kind of had a quietness for about a year, and now not only seeing it come back with Sixshot decks people have made, but also seeing other decks folk are putting it back in with some Blitzwing. Seems to get a lot of Kinetic Converter at the moment.
That's awesome. I always liked Blitzwing a lot. In fact, he was in my Energon Invitational deck, so it's great to see him back.
And that would have been Kinetic Converter would have been available for you, right, for Energon Invitational?
Yes. I don't remember if I had it in my... I don't remember if I had it in my deck, though, at the time. It was very heavy aggro.
Well, Wave 4 was only about a month or month and a half old at that point, I think.
Yeah.
So it would have been starting to sneak into people's decks, but not quite showing up as much. But I definitely like Perceptor also. You see it in Wheeljack's Perceptor deck from a couple of tournaments back when he was doing like just all the different cards. He has some Kinetic Converter in there.
It's a great card. And like I said, you mentioned we'll go into Sixshot's changes, but because of his changes, it's even more relevant to him now. Like, he really needs it.
Yes. It's now valuable to him rather than overkill.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, tell us about Sixshot and how that's gone.
So, the biggest change we've done to Sixshot is his after battle flip now requires you to scrap a card to get it. That let us also in turn kind of, I don't want to say buff his other abilities, but we didn't have to be as cautious with them. So, his scrap ability, which is now on Wolf, no longer requires you to scrap a card. In addition to that, his bot mode now lets you play the top card for your deck if it's a Decepticon card. Tank mode now has Pierce, and we increased to 3. We were heavily discussing whether we were going to keep car mode and switch to truck. However, those surveys we sent out to players really convinced us that maybe car mode is A-okay, and he got to keep his car. And so far, that seems to be working out okay.
Yeah, it's definitely a big part of the deck, is being able to untap with a turbo boosters or start your engine. But now that it's more expensive to go find those cards, it makes it far more of a gamble, right? It's far more of a classic. I've got a card deck. I've only got one card I care about, but if I can't find those cards, I'm getting beaten up. If I can find them, then great. I'm getting a second shot in with Sixshot. I think the other big bit is we were leaning so much to looking at all the abilities and saying, well, maybe that ability needs to scrap a card as well, and maybe that needs to scrap a card as well. And so that the idea that someone had to, well, let's just make it so you have to scrap to flip, suddenly means all the abilities can be that little bit better and not have to keep scrapping to pay for them. I think the other big one there was, I think Evil Gem had pointed out that when he was playing, most of the time he was using the same 3 modes and rotating through them as kind of the core approach. And so flipping the Wolf and Tank parts, where Wolf is now the scrapper and Tank gets Pierce and that extra 1 defense, has brought Wolf in as this optional defense mode that, yes, you've lost 1 defense, but that scrapping or smelting the upgrade, right, your opponent chooses, becomes a very valuable defensive play you can do. And that bot mode Decepticon play is, it's powerful, but it's a case of are you tutoring your deck to get a Decepticon card on top? You don't have Shockwave letting you look at the top card all the time. So how much of a gamble are you going to take on that last big hit to be like, I really need to send in my bot somehow, and maybe I get the perfect card?
Yeah, exactly. one of the feedbacks we also received were that his abilities, while not individually too complicated, when you have 6 modes, it's hard for it not to be complicated. So we made a real effort on each mode does one thing, no additional cost, keep each mode simple, to try and make it a little bit more easier for players to remember what each mode does and what tools they have available to them.
Agreed. In the testing tournament, there were myself as one of the players not even remembering that Sixshot did something. I was playing against Sixshot a lot in that tournament, and we would all forget that we weren't supposed to do planning on the turn or focus on the turn if Sixshot was in bot mode, or I think the earlier version had the wolf able to snarl its way through any stealth.
Yeah.
And that it was yet more on the card to remember. And of course, sucks on the other side if your stealth gets taken out. You've lost Tailwind on turn 1.
Yeah.
So much simpler. Seems like just a much cleaner, simpler approach to take, a better approach of not as much going on. You still got to worry about the 5 things that Sixshot can do when Sixshot flips. The 6 things now that the bot has a on-flip effect. So as the player against Sixshot, you've got 6 things in your head as to what are they going to do. One of the classic ones being alive by 1, because it can throw a damage. Alive by 1 is now, whoops, well, I'll flip at the end of my battle and take it out. So Sixshot's more of a alive by 2 concern than an alive by 1 concern. It's quite happy to leave an alive by 1.
And requiring the scrap to get that extra flip after battle kind of goes back to what we were suggesting with Kinetic Converter. He needs that card draw to get all those extra flips. Whereas previously we saw him with a very bloated hand. Like, he'd have way too many cards to play. And I see Sixshot getting starved at times now because he wants to keep flipping. And I think that's a good direction. Like, you shouldn't have a bloated hand unless you're doing something like a Sunstorm or something like that.
Yeah, you really have to balance as you get towards the mid part of the game when you're going to throw the hand in, when you're going to commit. And then you have, you end up with a turn of, well, I just top decked a card. I can't afford to play it because I know I need it for my 6-shot play. I'm going to attack with 6-shot, and at the end, I'm going to flip into defensive mode. Thankfully, this card's not going to help anymore. So it does also makes that top deck, when you top deck a weak card and you're sitting there with just 6-shot, then it allows that to give you I think each of the abilities are effectively a 0.66 value of a card. And so you've got a more consistent option available for your card that you're going to discard, which it turns out, you picked an upgrade and you already have 3 upgrades on, or you picked an action, but it's really not going to do anything for this turn.
Yeah. And calling it like each mode is kind of like 0.6 of a card, that's a good comparison. Sometimes people say, oh, he's 15 stars and this mode only does this, while this other character is 15 stars and, they do so much more. But Sixshot's a Swiss Army knife. No one mode should be better than a normal character's mode. The goal is he does everything decently, but nothing great.
Yeah. And he gives you options, right? He's effectively a card that says, when you flip, you may choose one of the following 6 cantrips. And there are some costs because you're getting less attack, less defense. And so, and you also have and you can discard a card to choose another one of the following 6 cantrips, but it can't be the one you chose the first time. So it's very much that kind of, like, options are really good, but options are always usually downplayed, and you're not going to get a superpower on one of those options.
Yeah.
But the hope is that it is the right moment for the option.
Constructicons are really good nowadays. Not only did they get a very good stratagem in Wave 7, as well as a really good battle card in Wave 7, there's been a lot of new cards that just kind of coincidentally help them as well. The Dark Spark is one of those cards, but if the Dark Spark is only making Constructicons too good, that's not the Dark Spark's problem, that's a Constructicon problem. It's to a point where we can't create new cards that help white teams because they make Constructicons too powerful. And that's not to say that Constructicons can't be beat, that they are completely broken and ruining the game, but the difficulty that most decks have to beat them is disproportionate to how easier it is for Constructicons to win. So we went and we looked at what Constructicon specific card should we adjust to kind of free up the design space and bring Constructicons a very small notch down. And that card is Malevolent Architect. There was a lot of debate among the team on how we should nerf it. Some members were really pushing for us to adjust the card draw, but ultimately what we decided is a small nerf and just lower the bonus health it gives from 2 to 1. So it gives all Constructicons now 1 health instead of 2. And thus far, we've been pretty happy with the 1 health nerf. I think we have 3 players playing it in this current tournament, and they all seem pretty happy with it.
Actually, used to at the end of Wave 4, I think, before going into Wave 5, my cute deck of choice was a 6-wide that had 3 Constructicons and 3 of the Off-Road Patrol. And the idea was very much to send in the Constructicons first, so the Off-Road Patrol could then heat of battle their way in. And usually my great challenge in it was most decks would happily kill the Constructicons perfectly, whereas I usually wanted one of them to live so I could stay in stealth for the next turn. And so getting that extra 2, just with that deck, having 2 extra hit points on my 3 Constructicons would have actually been like a big leap forward for even that silly deck I was playing that was trying to do 6-wide Pierce. Because, you got 2 of the Constructicons have base Pierce and 1 has base Bold, so they're quite useful to flip one, send them in.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That little cusp of that 1 or 2 hit points was definitely the difference for me, even with that deck back then, of losing winning games a lot, was that I would usually be like, damn, you just killed you got them perfect. I needed them to live so that you wouldn't take out an off-road patrol this turn, or as quickly as you want to.
As the show's name suggests, this game is really much a game of alive on ones. It happens all the time. So a single health difference can be a pretty big deal. We've seen a lot of exact kills on Constructicons this tournament. And that just shows that if we hadn't changed that, we'd have drastically different results already.
Yeah, like one of the biggest hindsight grumbles you'll have is, you sit there about to attack into someone, and the question is, do I commit fully with the cards in my hand, or do I try to just tickle them enough and save back this grenade launcher? Or more likely, like this +2 or this bold 1.
Yeah.
And so when you miss by 1 and you could have played that card, that's always one of the most hindsight, scream moments of like, I could have done it. I thought I could do it, but I couldn't. So yeah, that -1 HP, I think, it's looking good there. I was looking at the previous Constructed tournament we had, and we had Constructicons finishing first and then I think 7th out of the 14. And of the 14 decks, only 3 of them I would say are sort of post-WotC, post-Step 5 in their core. And I think one was UZ playing Terracons, and the other 2 were the Constructicons kind of coming back with the power of those extra cards. All the other cards were really just splashing in the newer cards to bring back some older ideas. Oh, I missed one. There's also a Combaticons. So there were 4 decks that I'd call post-WotC and 10 that I would say are splashed improvement on an existing WotC.
It's really interesting, and I always love to point out just how much WotC has remained relevant, and I think that's a good thing for the game. That always makes it so that if someone comes to the game and just has their old cards, or just has what they can get on TCG Player, that they stand a real good chance still. They're not that far behind, that far out of the picture.
Yeah, one of the decks in that last Constructed was pure WotC Fort Max deck, and it came 10th out of the 14.
Yeah.
Which is decent. It got some wins.
It competed.
And it didn't even have like additional battle cards because most people are splashing in a few extra battle cards. Maybe they're bringing in a buddy character.
Yeah, especially usually at least the double pips.
Yeah. Just because we've banned some of the security checkpoint, peaceful tyranny are out, so that's going to hurt a pre-wave 5, pre-wave 6 deck, and so it needs those extra double pips to come in just to give you your balance on your flipping numbers.
Moving past that, we did release a new Outlier finally, and you were a big push of this initiative. You want to tell us about it?
Sure. This is the Optimus Prime Inspiring Leader card. they call it the Heroes of the Realm cards over at WotC. So these are cards that are printed in a very small number and given to Wizards of the Coast employees. So they had done this for the TFTCG team over at WotC when they released End of Wave 4, I think. I think it was for Christmas, from memory. So it was just after the Invitational. And it was, I think one side is a magic character, and then the other side gave you a couple of TFTCG cards so he can flip between his bot mode and his alt mode. And obviously there's, like 5 of these in existence. None of us in the game are going to be able to own one and bring it in. And it's also, it's a little horribly overpowered. I think if this showed up in a tournament, we would have had to ban it very quickly it wasn't WotC legal either for tournaments. Like, it's scary. In his bot mode, if Prime has a matrix on him, then he can basically do a heated battle, give bold 3 to all his people when they attack. And in his alt mode, other characters have tough 1, so that's Flame War. They can't be dealt non-attack damage, so that's Motor Master, who are 2 of the best 5-star cards around. And then, and when he attacked, you can go find a matrix and put it in your hand. So, you're looking at turn 1, you attack with Prime, you grab I guess you're hoping to grab a matrix from what was flipped. I guess you get to throw someone else in first. You defend. Hopefully a matrix is shown up. You attack with Prime, you get your matrix. Turn 3, you put the matrix on Prime, you flip Prime, and then your next 2 people get bold 3 as you attack out. Like, there's some big hits happening here. So this card was always kind of in the imaginary world of, none of us will ever have even seen one. And then we actually did see one, I think, up for sale on TCG Player, or at least someone had claimed to have one up for sale on TCG Player for a silly amount of money.
They had the photos of it, at least. And
and they had the photos there.
What was it, like, was it 750,000?
It was not going to get paid for.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm pretty sure 100 was always about the max anyone went to at the time of the game when people were buying these. But it realized that we can get the artwork together. We can use card generator that Z has put together on Transformers.cards that lets us quite easily go from here's an image to here's a card, and just go draft out what the card would look like to generate it. And it was like, this looks good. This is a decent thing to play digitally or to print and play in a casual game. So we did that work. We don't need to test it because we know this is not legal and we're not changing it. So that made it quite easy once we kind of got that work together to find the right time to pop this out as our Outlier 2, our second you can't play these in tournaments cards.
And it's funny, I would say probably like every other month, either someone joins the Discord or messaging me directly being like, hey, do you have this card for sale? Like, what's it worth? Do you have it? So it'll be nice to now be able to just point to this and be like, here, go print it.
Yeah. And I can see us having some, like, an Octagon TTS digital game where it's like, yeah, everyone plays him. Let's see what the hell happens.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Oh my god, that's horrible.
Everything's allowed. Everything's allowed sort of event. Yeah.
It's a good kind of
definitely
event.
In our next professional print run, I'll definitely be getting my own copy printed.
That's a good point. Yeah. The other thing I hadn't noticed until I was sort of drafting the code up on Transformers.cards is it's a picture of Optimus Prime, and in the background of Prime, we have Bumblebee and Red Alert and Ironhide. And it hadn't clicked to me until I was setting up the imaging of like, oh, this is the starter set. It's literally the starter set in this card. And then when he flips to bot mode, you can see the 3 of them in the background as well. I thought it was a lovely touch that I'd never noticed.
Yeah. And again, part of why we never noticed is we never really had good, clean art of it, at least that we are aware of. So it's nice to be able to finally have that out there.
Yep.
Encounter 5 is still ongoing right now. We're in the middle of round 3. And so there's not a whole lot to talk about, but there are a few things I wanted to bring up really quick. Like, for example, Jihen is playing Sixshot as a sideboard character.
It's nice to bring him out. It's something Steven had said in testing. It was like, 15 stars is a very nice sideboard character because one of the deck styles we see a chunk of at the moment are 5-wide 5-star cards. And especially when Night Racer came out right at the end of the WotC era, and we had Crasher in wave, I think 6. So we've got these fairly healthy 5 stars, which means you can kind of go with a do the help plus play some really good cards. And this is, for me, a lot of the time, if I'm playing tournaments, I'm trying to test anyway. And so I was like, well, let's see how this goes, where you play the 5 good characters and a bunch of good cards with them, but you've got Sixshot in your pocket. And you maybe flip to that as I'm going to go now. Like, I love, I'll pretty much always, I think, any deck I've built, and this is sort of, not a very good competitive mindset, but I'll always look to have a deck where I take 2 cards out and bring 1 in from the sideboard so I can go narrower. And therefore, the idea of going from 5 down to 3 felt really good. And I'm even playing a 4-star Scorpulator weapon in there as well to let me throw in a couple of star cards with Villainous Spotlight, because it always feels nice to have a couple of star cards in the deck.
Then I'm not sure if you saw Weaver versus Steven. I did get the match recorded. It's up on our YouTube channel. But the Weaver's deck was fascinating. Almost every action he has is a rolling action.
Ooh.
And Steven would come in at times, and the Weaver would scrap like 5 rolling actions on defense. And in fairness, he didn't win this match, but he did win against Black Knight.
Mm-hmm.
That's always been a big concern with rolling actions, is that they feel really weak when you play them. But if you're able to build up a bunch of them, it's incredibly strong. And
but also brittle, right? Like, because you can scrap your opponent's rolling action, if that ever becomes a big thing, then it's going to still remain a kind of a brittle thing of like, and you know which cards they've got, they're face up. So I will scrap the one that's best.
Yeah. We do have cards to deal with rolling actions in the game, but no one ever puts them in their deck because rolling actions have never been a threat.
Yeah.
And seeing them in this game it made me really happy. I still think rolling actions are weak. I still think we need to do more to make them a more interesting and useful part of your deck. But this was kind of the first time I'd actually seen, especially in a tournament, kind of like how we envisioned them working. That was really cool.
Yeah, I love it. I'll be watching that video to advertise.
Let's talk about why we designers play in tournaments, specifically the more competitive kind like our Encounter series. I know in many other games, it's kind of a faux pas for designers and testers to play in major tournaments, especially major tournaments like the OI. We obviously know what the cards are, we've had more time to play with them, and while I feel strongly in saying that none of us designed the game around how does this make it better for me, I can imagine why people might think that. That said, I think a big reason a lot of us play is we love the game.
Mm-hmm.
I know for myself, if I didn't play the game, I wouldn't be working on the game. I wouldn't be running the website. I wouldn't be doing all the other stuff. It's because I like playing the game. I want to play it more. And I think designing the game, releasing new cards is a big part of keeping the game alive. In a perfect world, where we actually had a team of dozens dedicated and paid, yeah, we probably would have a full separate testing team that didn't play any events. But that's not reality, right? This is a hobby for us. And we have to still have fun with our hobby.
Yeah, I think that part's a big one. Like I come from the open source background, and one of the big topics there is you scratch your itch, and you're there to solve your problem first and foremost. You wrote that piece of software first and foremost to solve what you were doing, what you needed. And what I often see is that when that goes into becoming a job, and you're no longer doing the thing that's giving you the feedback loop of achievement, enjoyment, then it becomes a job, right? And you're like, hang on, no one's paying me for this job. So I think it's crucial to keep that feedback loop going. And a lot of it is going and playing and just having fun. If ever Z's having a bad day, I usually just try to convince him to, on a Thursday, play an Octagon game against me.
Yeah.
Let's do something silly.
Exactly. And I know for you, tournaments are a good way to test things. Even though it's a serious event and we're all trying hard, in many ways the best time to test something.
Yeah, I think because I play a lot of different card games, but my Transformer brain is usually looking at the new cards that folk are designing and suggesting, and I'm sitting there, often the one holding the gate of like, can it go to beta or not? And my brain's already going to be thinking about what are the things that could happen without this card. So a couple of tournaments back, there was some stratagem we were playing with, and it was like, oh, that was a really powerful deck. What happened there? In the testing. And so I went, well, I'll take the stratagem out and these other cards that were new, a couple of new cards out, and I'll just go play this in the tournament and see how it happens. And, I got my butt kicked. I got some interesting plays out of it, but it definitely gave me some lessons that this deck was not what it looked like just from one or two, like, super powerful, exciting test plays. It's like, okay, great. This is not as much of a worry as it could have been. And then sometimes I'll also just go in, like the Sixshot test event we did. I'm in my brain, I'm just going straight in with an aggro deck and just gonna, how much can I hit Sixshot and is it gonna hurt and be a problem? Because we want that, right? Like, generally speaking, you want, I guess, what would have been the Insecticons deck. I think Ozzy's Blaster deck was where I went this time. You want that deck to be a big threat against anything, the thing that just hits you for a lot of oranges, and so that people are having to think, what's my sideboard to change this? Or, I'm going to lose to really, really sharp scissors every time, even when I'm rock. So what am I going to do about this to deal with it? So for a lot of the time, the competitions for me are very much, I want to test some idea out. Or even like, you mentioned, people's sort of favorite decks. I'll have favorite characters. Maybe even I saw someone else play. I remember Mr. X a couple back played Runner Bros. I was like, I love Runner Bros. So now what can we do to make Runner Bros have that little bit extra as a splash more, post-WotC, so that it's pushing a bit more? Or can we do that same notion of you flip this character, you flip another character? And you tend to forget about some of these things until they're in your face being played in the tournament.
Yeah. And I think we're also at a stage right now where a lot of our play of the game, just in general, is in tournaments, because that gives us all an excuse to put time aside to schedule the game, to actually play it, as opposed to kind of just like wait around and see who shows up. It makes us all more proactive at playing. And so even in a serious tournament, like an encounter, it's just an excuse to play the game. That's the main reason for it.
Yeah, just want to flip some oranges and blues.
Yeah. The last topic I think I want to touch on this is, it's true, a lot of the team designers do very well in tournaments. And I've had it mentioned to me, it's because you guys are the ones who designed the cards, that's why you're doing so well. And while I can understand why someone might think that just by, looking at the tournament results, that's not really what the case is. We have designers that don't do well. There are many tournaments where team members don't do very good in a tournament, don't even make the top cut. Rather, I think what you're actually seeing is most of our designers have gotten really good at the game because we play it a lot. And if you spend a lot of time doing something, you're likely to get pretty good at it. Especially someone like Ozzy and Wheeljank, who have probably played this game more than anyone on the planet doing testing for us. That's it. You do anything a lot, you're going to get good at it.
I think also, if you look at the decks they're playing in the tournaments, it's often not the ones they designed a lot of.
Yeah.
I think for that, the last constructors we have, Wave 10 is, getting my numbers right, yeah, Wave 10 was legal and available. Ozzy and Wheeljank did most of that. And Ozzy's playing an orange Blaster Nightbird deck, and Wheeljank was playing this amazing Swiss Army Knife Perceptor deck, where he's mostly pulling cards from WotC era. Hawk loves to play the Constructicons, but I don't believe, those weren't his cards that have taken Constructicons and lifted them. Those were from Wave 7. So, and you actually look at where people end up going, it turns out the cards they're playing often aren't even the ones they designed a lot. Probably they've tested those cards so much that they're like, okay, I'm done with that one. I'm going to go play with something else.
Yeah. I play Scorponok a lot. I had nothing to do with his design. That was ARC stuff back before our team was really, unified and formed like this.
And your other big one is Terracons. Same situation.
Same situation, exactly. I do understand why, for an outsider looking in, it's weird that we're playing, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it at all. Like it's only brought good.
Mhm. Yeah, I think we would have our own suspicions if there was a like one deck that seemed really good in one person's hands and wasn't working for anyone else. It'd be like, no, okay, we're going to nerf the hell out of this thing. Like this is going too much. So I think it's balanced nicely, and it would take away from the fun. I think this is where you get the community angle, because it's a game being kept alive by the community, being driven by the community, where you've got, again, my brain's in open source mode, right? You've got people who are at contributor level, people who have got kind of the yes, no, and whether a contribution goes in, people who are just using the software that comes out the other end. It's all this kind of stretch of community. And if it stops being fun for any of them, it's easy to stop using, right? Like you vote with your feet. And so it's important for anyone that they're keeping the fun going, and keeping the fun going for everyone, because a tournament for one person ain't fun either.
Yeah, completely.
So there's some nice feedback loops, right? Like if it goes too much in one direction, the feedback loops are quite easy to force pain on and make change.
I would say, and it's not even exactly related to the topic, but the closest to it that I think we'll see is a lot of the times we'll design characters just because we like the character. Not because we want to play it, but we just like that character. I know that's a big reason why Ozzy and Will Jink did a lot of cassettes. They haven't used them in any of the tournaments, as far as I can think of. But they just like cassettes. And kind of to your point earlier, you want to scratch that itch. You want to work on the things that you like.
Yeah, I mean, most of us have Transformer toys on a shelf behind us, and looking behind me, and in your case, usually facing you everywhere. So there are toys sitting there yelling at you for why this card is not in the game yet, or why do I not have this version of myself there? So half the time, there's just a toy speaking to you, I suspect.
Completely true.
Speaking of, Death's Head is on my shoulder. one day, Death's Head is going to force his way in. It's so hard to get the art, and he doesn't flip.
No, just what I was about to say. I think, this is going off a little tangent, we'll go ahead and keep it in this episode.
This is my favorite.
I think we can get art for him. I mean, every year there's Draw a Death's Head Day.
Is there?
Yeah, you didn't know about that. Oh,
no.
It's a yearly event where people draw a Death's Head. And I'm sure somewhere out there, there's some really high quality art where we can contact the artist and be like, hey, would you mind if we use this for our free TCG?
And I'll buy a picture from them to put on my wall of Death's Head.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think we'll be able to get art. I feel good about that one.
But now we got the problem, he doesn't flip, and characters that don't flip are tricky, but that gets to be the fun on the design side.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, referring to that Aussie deck that I played, he was using Nightbird in there, and Nightbird doesn't flip.
It's true. But then we won't be able to do Death's Head 2, and I'll be disappointed. I think Death's Head is...
OG Death's Head.
I think Death's Head is... How do I want to word this? People have often asked, oh, are you going to add human characters? And my answer is always no. No. I think Death's Head is as close to that as we would get.
We get to have the future arguments where I'm like, but Death's Head 2 is a human-sized character. Only Death's Head 1 is Transformer size.
That's exactly it. At least at the time.
Thank you. You've given me my defense.
Until they shrunk them.
Until Doctor Who, yeah. Thank you, Doctor.
Comics are weird.
Very. Especially all that UK comic creation when they didn't have a new comic from the US to publish, so they had to make something up.
Yeah.
Like, so much fun, inventive stuff there.
All right. I think that's going to be it for this episode. Oh, as a quick note before we close off, the store is back up with like dozens of cards and some toys and things are up there. All Shanix from past events has been paid up. So if you're interested in anything, go in there and check it out. If you're new and haven't played, like, hey, join a few events. You'll get points and we can send you free stuff. I have no problem doing that.
Also, come watch the events. Like, if you're new and haven't played, we announce the when people are playing people on the Tournament Chat Discord channel. Just come watch, please.
Yeah.
Like, no one's going to be upset that you're sitting there watching. Keep your mic muted. And you can watch some of these cards being played, and as I would be often feeling, building up that confidence for, and I'd like to take part in the next tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next episode, Encounter 5 will have come to an end. We'll have the deck lists, and we'll know the top 10 players who made it into the Omega Invitational. If you'd like to leave us feedback, you can leave a comment in this video or anonymously at Transformers.cards/aliveon1. Jihen, thank you for joining me. About time we got you on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you, Z.
All right, until next time, toodles.
Bye all.